Pharmaceutical company Prevacus says their new concussion medication Prevacol helps repair nerves and promote cell growth.
We can get the drug in the brain in less than 5 minutes. And our plan is when we get that diagnosis on the field of play, give the drug nasally, get it in the brain quickly. When it gets in the brain, it actually gets into the nucleus of your brain cells, and it reduces swelling, inflammation, and oxidative stress at the same time.
When Jake and I first talked about this many years ago, one of my first questions was, will this help me? And he goes, no, this is for treatment immediately when a concussion or you think a concussion has occurred.
Yeah.
The acute problems that exist later on in life, if we can take care of these at an early age and start getting some of these things to our children and grandchildren, and I think we can make this game, our game, football, a safer place.
And so the whole goal is we're trying to make the game safer. And so Odyssey and this drug, we believe, can be a game changer in so many different ways. Yes, on the football field, in the game of football, because that's where my passion lies, but also in the game of life.
Oh, welcome back to Unapologetic with Chet and Duffy here on Naked Sports Network, powered by Fans Only Sports Network. I'm your host, Chet, and to my right is my counterpart, Duffy. Duffy, how are we doing on this Wednesday?
Chet, doing well tonight, man. A lot of things heating up. Excited to get back to talking some sports with you, and happy Wednesday, my bro. Happy hump day.
Yeah, happy Wednesday indeed. And to start off the Wednesday, very depressing for Boston sports fans, as the Boston Celtics were defeated in 5 games as of last night to the Brooklyn Nets. Brooklyn, obviously, we talked about it for quite a while. This team definitely had the upper hand going into the series. Boston did manage to take Game 3 and win that one 125-119 in a very tight matchup. But then the next one, a complete blowout, 141-126, and then the same result following last night, 123-109. Celtics have been eliminated from the postseason, and in fact have gone through some coaching changes. Duffy, if you want, you can shed some light on the situation there.
Yeah, so Celtics losing in 5 games, as we predicted. We thought they would get swept or losing a gentleman's sweep, which is 5 games, and that is indeed what happened. Lucky to get away with one. Honestly, that was kind of upside of the series, just even get 1 game against Brooklyn. But Celtics, a lot of things shaking up in the organization. Danny Ainge, who has held the position of director of player operations for the better part of 2 decades now in Boston, former Celtic himself, has stepped down, retired today, effective immediately. And Brad Stevens, the Celtics head coach, promoted to take Danny Ainge's position as president of player operations, basketball operations, whatever the hell it is. And Celtics now in need for a new head coach. So a disappointing season for the Celtics. Obviously, things were going to have to change in the organization. Was not expecting this to happen, quickly for Danny Ainge to retire and just step down. That's just out of the blue. But Definitely gives a nice sense of closure for the Celtics heading into next year, because now we get to reset, especially after a really off year. You can get some players back and, keep Brad Stevens in the organization, because he is, one of the best minds in basketball. He's, quote unquote, a basketball genius. So it's really nice to have him back in the organization and not lose him entirely, despite a coaching change being needed. So it's kind of, honestly, I don't know if there's a better case scenario for the Celtics if you do want to retain Brad Stevens, but also look towards the future of the organization. And I think that Danny Ainge's retirement could come as a blessing in disguise.
Yeah, a lot of people are talking about it as something like that, and it definitely seems like most people, I mean, at least experts that I'm reading about, are not totally surprised that Danny Ainge decided to step down and retire. And the fact that it happened the day after the Celtics lose in Game 5 and are effectively given the gentleman's sweep, it seems like the writing on the wall was already there. And the team had already made the push for this to happen and probably approached Brad Stevens about this later in the season. And honestly, things just weren't working out the way they were. I mean, it seemed like each year the Celtics slowly got to be a little more dysfunctional and a little less consistent than what we had seen in prior years. So
he was dating back to the Kyrie era. They were facing all sorts of dysfunction. That 2019 roster they had on paper was one of the deepest teams in the NBA. They had guys like Terry Rozier and Marcus Morris coming off the bench alongside what you already had in a starting five. And you had Hayward coming off the bench for that team too, if you don't remember.
Yeah.
So Celtics really, like you were saying, Chet, a lot of dysfunction these last couple of years. And, but I can't discredit Danny Ainge for all of it. Yeah, he's had some bad draft picks. He has not really, signed big free agents the last few years.
He did give us Jason Tatum.
He has, he got Jason Tatum. That was from the Brooklyn Nets trade he made back in 2013, which they acquired, 3 first-round picks and a pick spot.
That's an amazing trade.
Jaylen Brown. Yeah, I mean, he's had great moments as a GM, and he kind of started a new era in the NBA by forming the Big Three in 2008 with, KG, Paul Pierce, and Ray Allen, and it kind of became the template for future NBA champions the last 10, 12 years or so. So yeah, he had a great tenure in Boston, as a GM, as the president of basketball operations, but these last few years did miss on a lot of draft picks, could not get the team over the hump. And was it all his fault? No. Could he have made more deals at the deadline the last couple of years? Absolutely. That could have helped propel the Celtics over that hump. We've been trying to get a big man the last 2 trade deadlines, and we've seen names like Andre Drummond the last few years of the trade deadline, and the Celtics linked around it, but never happened. So
yeah, that was always a huge complaint that, I mean, many people had, and there was so many speculations of trades that Boston might make, and then come trade deadline, it's either they trade for somebody, but it's not who you expect, and it still doesn't help the team in any way, shape, or form, especially this season.
Literally what happened this year,
Yeah, and it's just the Celtics just have progressively gotten much more pushed away from what they once were, and we want to bring them back. And it seems like the organization is taking those steps to bring them back to what they once were. And Brad Stevens, as you said, I love what the dude has brought to Boston, but I think his tenure as head coach, I think his talents could just be used elsewhere. And he even said that he's up and excited for this type of challenge that he is being offered right now, to being moved into a more business-like role with the organization. So we'll see if it pays off. But I mean, to kind of recap what we saw from the series, it was terrible. I mean, just kind of to keep it plain and simple. I mean, the team got blown out almost every game.
Yeah, it was not a good series. Pretty much what we expected to see, as we've been saying the last couple of weeks on this show when we've been talking about this series. I think whoever the Celtics did play in the first round, it wouldn't have been pretty, regardless if it was the Nets, the Sixers, or even the Milwaukee Bucks. So Celtics team, faced a lot of adversity this year. We're banged up. We're never really got into the rhythm of things, other than that 7-game winning streak they had in March. But this team, looking into next year, you're getting some guys back healthy. As I said, Jaylen Brown's coming back. Building some more chemistry throughout the offseason with these younger guys like Pritchard and Robert Williams, who's probably going to assume the starting 5 role for the Celtics next year. So a lot to look forward to. And if they can just get the right head coach for this team, then I think we're going to see a big difference in what we saw last year. And yeah, the Celtics these last few years cannot get over the hump, as we saw year in, year out. But I don't think it was ever really what they had on the floor. I mean, at some points it really was. They did lack a lot of depth, especially in the big man area. Grabbing rebounds, did get out, score a lot of games in that department. But Brad Stevens staying in the organization, getting a new head coach. This could either be. I saw an Instagram comment say that this could either be the best thing the Celtics have ever done or the worst thing that they could do for their organization. I mean, there's really no in between.
Yeah, but I mean, either way, it was
optimistically right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's the only thing you can do. You just saw them have a very mediocre to literally a 500 season. They were basically middle of the pack.
Which
they
is
weren't
bad
great
for any Boston team.
Yeah,
it's mediocre for most cities, but here, that's bad.
It's unacceptable. So I mean, it kind of just looking at where it's going. I mean, you can feel either way about it. I mean, there really is. I mean, there is an in between where you can be like, well, they could be good, they may be bad. But I mean, at the same time, there's two sides to the coin. And I mean, we'll see where things go from here. But I mean, you can feel however you want about it because it could go bad or it could go really good. So, I mean, the only thing you can do is just stay optimistic about the situation. And we'll see where Boston heads going into this offseason and into next year. I mean, we'll just have to see how the rest of the NBA playoffs play as we go on. And of course, to really dive into that, we'll start with the Eastern Conference and talk about how Philly right now leads that series 3-1 over Washington. Obviously, no doubt going into this series here. They're live right now. Washington is actually up 2-0 here in this one. Obviously, still early in the game.
Yeah. That series with Joel Embiid is out tonight. That was something I was talking about with my buddies earlier. That really are a trendy pick for tonight's game, and they really came out last game and came swinging early. So they could win this game, push it to 6. But I think the Sixers at the end of the day are going to take this series, pretty easily.
Yeah, and it's also pretty tough because you're talking about Embiid not playing this game. That's a huge loss for this team because he was up there for most of the season as potential season MVP. So, I mean, not having that presence on the floor is really going to hurt the Phillies in this one. And sure, you could literally say the Wizards team is nothing but Russell Westbrook because, to be honest, it really is. But we'll see what happens. This team has proven that they have a shot in almost every game. Well, not almost every game, but in the last game, they really put the Sixers to the test. And not having Embiid could really give them some chance to really shift the momentum. Granted, I don't think it's going to happen. I think this team's too talented to let this team beat them in Game 5 and push it to a Game 6.
Yeah. It can go. I mean, the Sixers are going to capture this series. I think Joel Embiid, if he knows he's going to miss this game, he'll probably come back if the next series when they advance. So they're still a threat no matter what.
Sorry. Absolutely. And now another game to talk about. The Atlanta Hawks leading the New York Knicks 3-1. For me, I'm actually a little surprised about this series. I thought it would be a hell of a lot closer than this. Because right now, if Atlanta wins tonight, they play at 7:30. Series is over. I honestly thought the Knicks would make this a little more contested.
I mean, I thought the Knicks would too. I mean, they've really shown out. They really came out in these games, shooting really poorly to open things up. Julius Randle his split this series has been awful from what he was doing in the regular season in terms of shooting percentage. But the Hawks, really putting the pedal in the metal. They won the last 2 games at home. Really, doing a nice job at just scoring the basketball and really just outplaying the Knicks in all ways, shapes, and form. They won the last 2 games by double-digit, 11 and 17-point victories, respectively, in games 3 and 4. So I think they have all the momentum right now, and momentum's a really tough thing to break in any sport, not even just basketball, just a really tough intangible to get by. And even with the Knicks being at home this game, I actually made a bet earlier today on my other podcast, TJ and B, with my boy Ben Katina.
Didn't we make a bet about the Celtics last week?
I don't even remember, dude.
I'm pretty sure you said they get swept in 4, and I said they get swept in 5.
I don't know, man. We'll have to watch the tape.
Rerun the tape. Yep, we'll have to rewatch the tape.
I did make a bet on the Hawks tonight, so I think the Hawks are going to capture this series. They've been outplaying the Knicks. A lot of people had the Knicks winning this thing in like 5 games, but the Atlanta Hawks are a scary team, and they will be for the future. They're a deep team. Trae Young, John Collins. This team's good. They're going to win this game tonight. And I have to say that because, as we say every week, the gambling addiction really coming into play. But it's all fun and games, so I'm just playing. But staying in the East, the other two series have been decided. We will see the Nets and the Bucks play it next round. But in the West, number 1 seed Grizzlies against the Jazz. Not much to say about this one, in my opinion. The Jazz have won the last 3 games of the series after Memphis went up 1-0. So at home tonight in Salt Lake City, I'm taking the Jazz. Yeah, you good, man?
Yeah, I was actually going into our last. I was looking into our last broadcast to see if I could find. I'm trying to see if I won $5 against you.
I thought you were actually doing some conference call or something.
No,
bro.
I'm not. I would never.
He just wants his $5. He just wants his $5.
Bro, I want him.
He wants that demo ASAP.
Okay, so you're talking about the West. So you're talking about the Jazz, right?
Yeah, we'll just go to the next series because that one's over. We have 3 really good series in the West right now, 3 that are really up for grabs. One of them is this guy, Damian Lillard. Last night, Game 5 against the Nuggets, he dropped 55 points in a double overtime loss in Game 5. The Nuggets now lead that series 3-2. I had Nuggets -2 in that game. It was the best decision I ever made yesterday. Thought it was a lock, and it really was, but man, Dame time, baby. This guy, 55 points, a playoff record, 12 3-pointers last night. He is nuts. People are gonna say he's living in Curry's shadow. He's not gonna be as good as Curry, but he is Damian Lillard. Damian Lillard's Damian Lillard. There's no comparison for him. He's the man. He just shows up whenever it counts. These Blazers were down 8 points in overtime last night, and he scored 17 points in a row, and they still ended up losing and brought the double overtime.
My brother was absolutely pissed watching this game. Really? he was so mad. I'm pretty sure he was so mad, and I was like, "Why are you mad? I kind of want to see the Nuggets win." And he was like, "Dude, screw them!" Because obviously Lillard put on a performance of a lifetime, 55 points. It was
one of the greatest playoff performances I've literally ever seen, or anyone's ever seen. 12 3-pointers in the playoffs, never been done before. That was
because I watched the end of that game with them.
Dude, I turned that game on. I asked Siri. I just got back from my sister's concert last night, and I asked Siri. I'm like, Nuggets game, and it was 121-118 with 9 seconds left. I put on NBA TV right here, and I see that the game is tied. And all I hear is Damian Lillard for 3, and then he tied it with a 3 in overtime too, so a double OT. So, I mean, this is one of those things where the Nuggets technically have the momentum going into this Game 6 in Portland. Winning that emotional Game 5 in double overtime. But, Damian Lillard's hot. And I think this goes 7, and I think the Blazers could very well take it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I definitely could see them swinging the series because like we talked about last week, these teams seem to, for some reason, do better on the road in some instances. But obviously, like you said, it's kind of tough to deny the fact that Damian Lillard put on a performance of a lifetime that we'll probably never get to see again, but he's going to try and keep that streak going as much as he can because this team needs to stay alive. And
you get those road teams, this team needs to stay alive, like you were saying, Chet, but that was a good point about those road teams as we've been seeing in the playoffs. Another series, that Mavericks-Clippers series, that series is tied 2-2, and the home team has not won a single game.
Yeah, because I remember last week we were talking, the Mavericks were up 2-0.
Yeah, they were up 2-0, winning both games in LA, and LA's won each of the last few games. Kawhi Leonard's going crazy. He dropped 41 points in one of those games. So really interesting series there. But just to wrap things up on this NBA playoff talk, one last guy I just got to shout out right now is Mickey Mouse James. You can't really see it right here. I'm going to have to get a better pic of this. But LeBron James and the Lakers, a 30-point loss last night to the Phoenix Suns. Now they trail in this series 3-2.
I can't tell you how delighted I was to see them absolutely get demolished. Because I think at one point, I was looking on the TV and they were down 90-something to 47 at one point. And I'm like, dude, this team is getting its ass handed to them. And I fucking love that. That's awesome. But dude, Anthony Davis hurt that game. And I mean, it just really showed with this team that they didn't really have much going into this series without like a big piece, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, honestly. And, with this series too, the Lakers down 3-2. Obviously, Anthony Davis did get hurt. He did not play last game. Got hurt in that game before, which they also lost. But, dude, this is looking really bad. The Lakers, we haven't seen a defending champion, come back the next year and look this bad. Yeah, they had problems throughout the whole regular season. They were injured and stuff. But, the Lakers, the 7th seed, which was obviously underwhelming in itself, and now down 3-2 to an upstart Phoenix Suns team who's their first year being, even the playoff discussion. They've missed the playoffs the last 10 years. And LeBron James is one game away from getting kicked out in the first round of the playoffs. So,
yeah.
Dude, I mean, I really don't want to count them out. I think if any team is going to come back from 3-2 in these Western Conference playoffs, it's going to be the Lakers. I think they're going to win next game at home. I don't see LeBron James losing in 6 games in the first round. I really don't. As much as I'm shitting on him with this background right now and Mickey Mouse. But, dude, it's LeBron James, and you can't count him out. And he's going to come out and he could drop 40 on any given night, any given, afternoon. It's going to be really tough for the Suns to be able to close this guy out. Even with Anthony Davis out. The Lakers, I don't want to say they're going to win the series, but, dude, I have a gut feeling just because of what I've seen the last 10 years, It's like you're telling me if Tom Brady and the Pats were 8-6 in the regular season, they had to win their last 2 games to make the playoffs. You're telling me they're not going to win those last 2 games? You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, because obviously you're talking about 2 of the greatest athletes. You're comparing 2 of the greatest athletes to ever play in each of their games. And, I mean, if there's somebody who's going to keep their team in it, it's going to be LeBron James. I mean, it just comes down to, can they bring it together when they play tomorrow night?
Yeah,
do they play tomorrow?
They're playing tomorrow, but final take on this series. Yeah, they are playing indeed tomorrow night at 10:30 p.m. And I'm just going to say it right now so everyone hears it on Unapologetic first. Lakers in 7. I've just thought about the last minute when Chet was talking. I'm telling you right now, this guy right here, the Mickey Mouse with his big ears, is going to come back and bring the Lakers to the Western Conference semifinals. They are going to play the Denver Nuggets Blazers winner. And I think, these guys are going to advance to the Western Conference finals again. The Lakers are going to win these next 2 games. Mark my words. You're hearing it here first.
Wow. That's crazy. Well,
the Suns are like the Atlanta Falcons with Matt Ryan. They're frauds.
They could be.
2016 Falcons. Telling you right now.
Well, we will see, because as of next week, we'll know. We'll be able to talk about it. I mean, I definitely think the Lakers do have a strong shot. I would love to see the Suns win it, but I don't really have much of an opinion as of right now to really weigh in on something like that. So we'll see what happens. I'm kind of very optimistic to see what becomes of it, but
for sure,
I'll put my money on the Suns for right now, because I do not want to see LeBron James move on.
Let's see who wins tomorrow night, and then me and you can bet on Game 7 off camera.
Fair enough. All right. So that will happen. You'll find out next week who won that bet. So anyway, or if it even occurred for that matter. So we're going to hit a commercial break.
It will.
We're going to hit a commercial break, and when we get back, we will be discussing some NHL playoffs.
Yes, sir.
Pharmaceutical company Prevacus says their new concussion medication Prevacol helps repair nerves and promote cell growth.
We can get the drug in the brain in less than 5 minutes. And our plan is, when we get that diagnosis on the field of play, give the drug nasally, get it in the brain quickly, When it gets in the brain, it actually gets into the nucleus of your brain cells, and it reduces swelling, inflammation, and oxidative stress at the same time.
When Jake and I first talked about this many years ago, one of my first questions was, will this help me? And he goes, no, this is for treatment immediately when a concussion or you think a concussion has occurred.
Yeah.
The acute problems that exist later on in life, if we can take care of these at an early age and start getting some of these things to our children and grandchildren, and I think we can make this game, our game, football, a safer place.
And so the whole goal is we're trying to make the game safer. And so Odyssey and this drug, we believe, can be a game changer in so many different ways. Yes, on the football field, in the game of football, because that's where my passion lies, but also in the game of life.
All right, welcome back to Unapologetic with Chet and Duffy here on Naked Sports. So, next topic. We're going to be talking about these Boston Bruins because right now we have moved into the series against the New York Islanders, who did defeat the Pittsburgh Penguins last week. And this series is tied at 1-1. So to kind of start from scratch and start from where and kind of discuss a little bit from before, we'll go to game one. Game one, absolute domination by Boston, especially in that third period. But the start, it was a back and forth, managed to be a 2-2 at the end of the second period. And then start of the third, 3 straight goals for Boston, unanswered, managed to come away with this one 5-2. We saw a goal from Taylor Hall, a goal from Charlie McAvoy, and then 3 goals from David Pastrnak to seal this one and give the Bruins a very solidified lead. Yeah. And they look, and I was, and it's great to come out of the gate from a game against the Capitals, a very dominating series in which the Bruins managed to win that one with little to no problems, in 5 games, to come into this one and looking good. But then fast forward to the next game, which happened 2 nights ago at this point. Bruins will be playing tomorrow night. But the last
game was emotional. I was watching that game, that game 2.
Yeah.
Down 3-1 in the third period, coming back, huge goal by Marchand, I believe it was, to tie things up and send it to overtime.
Yeah.
And to ultimately lose. That was tough. But the Bruins, man, in this series, though, they're playing some great ball in the great puck in the third period. Outscoring them 5-0 in the third period in this series. Playing some great hockey, and they're really getting the puck in the back of the net, which was what they really struggled with all season as opposed to these other top ranked teams in their division.
Yeah, and I mean, I think it really what kind of started that magic was that Patrice Bergeron goal that really kind of got things going. And then, like you said, with Brad Marchand. But I think, so the big thing was this team in game 2 started to play a little bit sloppy after that first period. The first period, they seemed to have dominated the entire game. And then suddenly a complete momentum shift in the second. The Islanders, I mean, honestly, dude, those 2 goals they got, they were fucking jokes. Like, that was unbelievable. Like, 2 of the goals were just like, they were so lucky. 2? Yeah, in game 2, dude, they were the luckiest goals I've ever seen in my life. I was like, this is the stupidest thing I've ever.
Period, bro. I remember because when I started watching the game, they were up 1-0, dude, and then boom, 3-1.
Yeah, I mean, the first one was really good. It was a really good goal, but then the last 2, pathetic. And then to talk about overtime, the Bruins, like, their line with Charlie McAvoy looked very tired throughout the end of that game, and they were passing like idiots. They were just moving so slow, and I was like, dude, they can't put this line on the ice. They're just too tired. Like, it doesn't make any sense. Obviously, they have to, but they were only out there for like under a minute at a time just because they couldn't do anything. They were just so sluggish. And then, I mean, the rest of the offense, though, they were just cramming shots on New York that whole overtime period. Like, and the thing is they had setups that easily could have gone in. There was one that went right through the goaltender.
Now that I'm starting watching hockey again, in the NHL playoffs, as casuals like me, come around every year. Yeah. But dude, I like, I just love like this hockey energy. They get a lot of shots up as opposed to, like in other games, but like the Bruins really out shooting the Islanders the entirety of that second game. And like that second period, I remember they got a lot of, good shots up, like you were saying, that one that went right through the goaltender's hand for New York. A lot of missed opportunities, but a lot of upside looking into the next game too, because you know how to attack these guys on defense. You know how to, get open looks and open shots. And, usually in hockey, the team that takes more shots is going to, be more successful and score more goals and end up winning the game.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, kind of just looking at the way this series went, well, like this game went, it kind of came down to, I felt like, I mean, it was tough because the Bruins played their hearts out. They were lightning all over the place, but some stupid decisions, especially the breakaway goal. That was a bad pass, a really bad pass to end that game and result in a breakaway goal, the game-winning goal. They just can't let their guard down like that again. That's just unbelievable, and that's like the type of playoff like things that are demoralizing for a team. This team needs to recap and really get itself together because hey, it's still early in the series. No reason to panic just yet, but they did have some sloppiness in that game that they need to figure out and really pick back up going forward.
Looking good too, though. I mean, they got home court or home ice this series too, which is huge.
Yeah.
They've been playing some great hockey. They've been putting the goal in the back of the net. They're 6-2 in the postseason so far, 5-2 actually, and very well could be 6-0 right now.
Yeah, and I mean, now they go to Nassau County, to Long Island, New York, to play these New York Islanders, and we'll see what happens. We'll see. I mean,
it's 2 games. The only 2 losses have been overtime losses. They're really playing contentious hockey right now.
They're playing where
every single game.
Yeah, and I mean, even in the games that went to overtime, I mean, they've still managed to win a few of those in overtime. The thing is like, but in terms of regulation, they have been able to get wins just by keeping it under the minimum in order to stay, prevent a tie to move on. So I like what I see out of the Bruins so far. It's going to be tough because we do go to New York. It's tough that we lost one of the 2 at home, but I'll take a win any day of the week. Now taking a quick look at the rest of the playoffs, 2 series I wanted to highlight. First being the Vegas Golden Knights and the Minnesota Wild. That was a series that was close for a while. The Wild ended up pushing to Game 7, and the Golden Knights coming back to really get themselves back where they needed to be. Win that game 6-2. They move on to the next round. They just, to me, look a little bit off compared to what we've seen in past years. I don't think they're as strong as they once were, but yeah, we'll see where the team ends up, get down the line. And then the last one I want to mention, Toronto Maple Leafs and the Montreal Canadiens.
Man.
What's that?
Maple Leafs.
The Maple Leafs,
guys, year in, year out.
It's
cannot
just
get it together.
No, they can't, and it's kind of pathetic. Like, this team is very pathetic, especially with like the roster it has, with players like Austin Matthews on that team, really kind of leading the charge forward. And the Canadiens, once again, just the young guys they have on this team, really stepping up, and they win Game 7, 3-1.
Yeah.
So I mean, this is, I don't know, the playoff energy in hockey. It's unreal. And it's something that we like to see week in and week out. And it's almost something you want to see all season long.
For sure.
But there's just something about playoff
these
matches.
Guys just fight, man. I just love these fights. And
Boston series got so physical, especially in the first game.
Yeah, it's definitely physical right now. And especially with the way the season happened this year, and the teams in the playoffs pretty much just play whoever they're playing, they pretty much just played the entire year anyways. There's definitely just a new and still rivalry among, these squads. So
yeah, they don't like each other right now.
Yeah, man, this could be the new era of like many different rivalries just starting in the NHL.
It's very true. So we'll see what happens going down the road. I hope the Bruins manage to take these next 2. I think it's going to be a 2-2 series though by next week. We'll see what happens. Maybe even a 3-2 series for Boston, but it'll be a very tough road ahead. So we're going to hit
no matter what. So
Yeah. So we're going to hit another commercial break right here, but when we get back, we're going to finish the night with some Major League Baseball, so stay tuned.
Pharmaceutical company Prevacus says their new concussion medication Prevacol helps repair nerves and promote cell growth.
We can get the drug in the brain in less than 5 minutes. And our plan is when we get that diagnosis on the field of play, give the drug nasally, get it in the brain quickly. When it gets in the brain, it actually gets into the nucleus of your brain cells, and it reduces swelling, inflammation, and oxidative stress at the same time.
When Jake and I first talked about this many years ago, one of my first questions was, will this help me? And he goes, no, this is for treatment immediately when a concussion or you think a concussion has occurred.
Yeah.
The acute problems that exist later on in life, if we can take care of these at an early age and start getting some of these things to our children and grandchildren, and I think we can make this game, our game, football, a safer place.
And so the whole goal is we're trying to make the game safer. And so Odyssey and this drug, we believe, can be a game changer in so many different ways. Yes, on the football field, in the game of football, because that's where my passion lies, but also in the game of life.
All right, welcome back to Unapologetic with Chet and Duffy. We're going to jump into, Jesus.
We're going to dump into them, man. We're going to shit over the Red Sox.
It's been a long day. My God, I'm so tired. We're going to jump into some Boston Red Sox here. So this team, kind of looking at what we have so far on the year, the Atlanta Braves series, they managed to split that. They lost the first game 3-1, but then after that, they win 3 straight, 9-5 in the second one. Then they play 2 games against the Marlins, a 5-2 win the first night, 3-1 win the second. The third night postponed due to rain. It was a really bad weekend for rain. And then they head to Houston. They get shut down in both games. The first one 11-2, and the next one 5-1. And just looking at the way this pitching staff is right now, kind of looking at it as a whole, looking at their starters, Eduardo Rodriguez right now is 5-4 on the year with a 5.64 ERA. And then you have pitchers like Nathan Eovaldi with a 4.01 ERA, Nick Pivetta, 3.86, Garrett Richards, 3.75, Martin Perez, 3.55. Right now, the team sits at an ERA of around 3.98. It's not
pretty ugly ERA, man. And, this team, as we say every week, they do have a pitching problem, not a lot of depth. And it's going to really come back to haunt them in games like this and series like this against, a hard-hitting team like the Houston Astros, who, just one of 2 teams who are statistically better at hitting the ball than the Boston Red Sox. And another series against the Yankees coming up right after this. You can't really expect to win, with this staff, at the helm. And 3.98 ERA is terrible. Currently the Red Sox sit overall in the league in pitching at let me see this, at 15, so middle of the pack in terms of ERA. Yeah, but the outcomes, they've looked a lot uglier than that. And
and
as of late, and
I mean, if you look at other teams in the East, Toronto Blue Jays sitting at 12 with 3.85, and then the Tampa Bay Rays 3.38 at number 7, and then the New York Yankees right now sitting at number 3 in terms of earned run average with a 3.18 ERA. The best team right now with the team ERA is the San Diego Padres, sitting with a 2.80. And then
a comfortable lead at the top.
comfortable lead. And then looking at batting average, Toronto Blue Jays right now and the Houston Astros both leading in the 1 and 2 spots, with the Boston Red Sox following in third. Obviously, teams like the Rays right now are batting 229 as a team. That's 23rd in the league. The New York Yankees at 227. But the thing is, these teams are still winning their games. I mean, the Yankees right now are up 2-0 on the Tampa Bay Rays here. I'm not sure if the Red Sox are playing tonight. They are actually at 8 p.m. against the Houston Astros.
Those teams have a lot of balance, you can really balance out their offense and defense, pitching staff and batters. And the Red Sox need to find that. And whether it's going to come with a trade in the next couple of months or any other acquisition or a call up from the farm league, really, I don't really know. But they're going to have to make something happen, dude, because, they're an elite hitting team. They're top 3 in, batting average and OPS, 2, advanced metrics in hitting. But with the way they've been playing lately, have not been able to produce mad runs as of late. That was going to be weird to say it, but only 21 runs in their last 6 games. Just about 3-4 runs a game as of late, and with 2 more games against the Astros this series, and another 3-game stretch against the Yankees and the Bronx. This is going to be a real big mental stretch for Boston. Can they keep up with these teams in the AL, with these better teams? And the Yankees, they still sit behind them in the standings, but they're creeping up. And, if the Yankees surpass them in the standings with this series, and how long is it going to take for the Red Sox to come back and get them? So, and get past them. So it's a lot of momentum on the line right here within these next 5 games. And this is a big, really important stretch of the season for Boston.
Yeah, and I mean, it's a really big, like you said, it's a huge part of the year, really, for them, because throughout the month of June, it's a lot of tough teams, because after this,
again, bro,
we play in New York, we come home to play 1 game against Miami, we play a full series again, we play 3 games against Houston, 4 games against Toronto. That's going to be really tough. So by the time we get here next Wednesday, they will have played the Astros at least once, but they will have completely gone through their Yankee series and their 1 Marlins game. Yeah. And then after that, they play Atlanta again in Atlanta. That'll still be tough. Kansas City, the Royals are doing absolutely god-awful now, so it's totally fine. We'll probably do pretty well against them. But then we play the Rays in 3. We come home and play the Yankees again. We play the Royals again. And then Oakland to start July. So some really tough teams. This is going to prove if Boston's pitching and batting is anywhere where it needs to be, because right now the bats are going cold and the averages are not staying up where they need to be right now.
Bats are cold. 2 series against the Yankees this month, which are going to be huge, as you were saying. And bats are cold, as I was just saying, not a lot of runs produced, this last stretch of games. And dude, this next month is going to be tough. And hopefully, God forbid we see this team fall anywhere near 500 or creep around that range. But, if they don't step it up these next few games, and if they can win today against the Astros, I think it'll be a huge swing of momentum, or at least one of these next 2 games. But, we could see this team, taking a decline this next month if they're not, producing runs or, not letting up hits. As simple as that sounds, they've had struggles on both of those this season. They just got to get more consistent. If they lack consistency this next month of the season, we could be seeing the downfall of the 2021 Boston Red Sox.
I totally agree with you right there. I mean, honestly, we could see this team potentially fall to the 4th seed, because right now, or even the 3rd seed, because kind of looking at their division standings right now, the Tampa Bay Rays are 2 games ahead of the Boston Red Sox. They did manage to lose last night because of the Yankees walking off their game in New York, a 5-3 victory off Clint Frazier. That was a great home run and a good way to keep the Red Sox alive. Yankees still trail 4.5 games behind, and then Toronto still close behind with 5.5 games behind us there. So this division's going to be tough. Like I've said times before, Baltimore Orioles, don't even worry about them. 18-37. They're 16.5 games out of first place, so they're fucked. They're absolutely fucked.
A lot of teams are, but there's a lot of games in this league, so I'm not going to rule them out. Yeah, I am going to rule them out. They're 16 games behind.
Yeah, So
you should give her your Oscar for the night and get your Orioles, fucking jersey.
Yeah,
back.
I didn't wear anything.
Where's
tonight.
your Orioles merch this week, man?
I don't have any. I mean, I could go get the one Baltimore Orioles cap I own. But tonight's Oscar, I'm still trying to figure out who I want to give it to. But I think for tonight, I'm going to give it to
Mickey.
What's that?
Come on, give it to this guy right here.
Yeah, I'll give it to LeBron James for being a Mickey Mouse, but potentially also turning
I just blew snot out laughing at that.
Dude, he is being a fucking Mickey Mouse.
Mickey Mouse gets tonight's Oscar, baby.
Yeah,
he already won one before, right?
What's that?
Didn't LeBron win an Oscar before?
No,
probably
I know Kobe
not. Did.
I would never give him an Oscar in a positive way.
Oh, like a real life Oscar.
Oh, that was Kobe, because Kobe did Dear Basketball, which was an animated short film.
Okay, and the other basketball players in the one was KD and Mike Conley because they executive produced some show. That was what I was thinking about. Or maybe that was I don't know.
LeBron wins his first Oscar. It's Chet's Oscar, so good for him.
Wins a nice little Chet Oscar.
Yeah, he wins a nice little Chet Oscar to end the night. And that's going to do it for us here on Unapologetic. We will have a betting segment next week. Obviously, football talk has been rather quiet around the league. Obviously, things with Aaron Rodgers and Julio Jones have not changed. So we will get you.
One of them will be by next week. I'm telling you this right now.
Yep. We will have more. We will definitely have more information on that once next week comes around. But until then, this is Chet and Duffy signing off for tonight. And we will see you all next Wednesday. Have a good one and go Pats.
God bless. Peace.
Pharmaceutical company Prevacus says their new concussion medication Prevacol helps repair nerves and promote cell growth.
We can get the drug in the brain in less than 5 minutes. And our plan is when we get that diagnosis on the field of play, give the drug nasally, get it in the brain quickly. When it gets in the brain, it actually gets into the nucleus of your brain cells, and it reduces swelling, inflammation, and oxidative stress at the same time.
When Jake and I first talked about this many years ago, one of my first questions was, will this help me? And he goes, no, this is for treatment immediately when a concussion or you think a concussion has occurred.
Yeah.
The acute problems that exist later on in life, if we can take care of these at an early age and start getting some of these things to our children and grandchildren, and I think we can make this game, our game, football, a safer place.
And so the whole goal is we're trying to make the game safer. And so Odyssey and this drug, we believe, can be a game changer in so many different ways. Yes, on the football field, in the game of football, because that's where my passion lies, but also in the game of life.